Welcome back to Afternoon Express. Now, water supply is something that should not be taken for granted. We are provided with clean and safe drinking water, which is conveniently routed to our homes and businesses. Right now, we are experiencing a drought, which, with the correct awareness, can be eased by everyday water users. With me is the Minister of Water and Sanitation, Ms. Nomvula Mokonyane, who will help us understand the current situation and how we can relieve some of the pressures of drought. Minister, welcome to our loft.
Thank you very much and good afternoon to your viewers.
It's really cool to have you on the couch with us. I hear your voice every weekend on my radio show, and it's exciting to see government so proactive about trying to engage with the public on these issues, especially something so big as our water droughts. Let's just expand a bit more on that. We've heard in our country all over the news at the moment that some provinces are experiencing level 2 water restrictions. What exactly does that mean?
Level 2 water restrictions has to do with really limiting access in terms of the pressure of water being supplied to the end user, as well as replenishment overnight or during particular periods of the day, as well as increasing the capacity with regard to bylaw enforcement and making sure that the end user becomes a responsible user. For example, domestic consumption, the irrigation systems. When can you irrigate? When can you actually water your garden? How best can you manage your own distribution of water if you're working in a big company that is highly dependent on water? But it is a reflection that you live in an area where the dam levels are far below 50%.
So obviously that affects quite a lot of us domestically at home, and there's a lot that we can do. It's almost seemed to say is, you know, nature can only do so much. It's up to you at home to make sure that you manage that water usage. What are some of the things that we can do at home to help diminish this crisis?
Not so long ago, the city of Johannesburg did a test of verifying the consumption levels in the city of Johannesburg, and guess what? 46% of domestic water in Johannesburg is used for gardening. Wow. It's not used for domestic consumption and so forth.
Drinking.
Not for that. It is for your sprinkler, it is for your swimming pool, it is for washing your car in your house. And that also helped us in terms of upping our capacity of dealing with bylaw enforcement by the city, being able to communicate to communities to say, imagine if that was the last drop that you have used to garden your grass, and yet you do not have water to drink. And it is those things that we're beginning to say, every household can make a difference. Yeah. Imagine the time you spend when you're in a shower. You can make a difference by reducing the time you spend inside the shower, how you use your water to clean your car. Rather use a bucket compared to you using a hose pipe. Those of us like me who use a makeup, why don't you get wet wipes and save a basin full of water? We're looking at interventions when it comes to our sanitation solutions in the communities, because many South Africans also did not realize that the water mostly in our urban areas that we use for flushing our toilets is the water that you can cook your meal with. Sure. So we definitely have to also promote recycling, the use of grey water, but we also have to, without just talking much about what individuals can do, government must also take responsibility by having capable men and women who must look after this infrastructure, by being responsive when there's a burst pipe, by making sure that we don't only deal with me and you who have had water over years, we must also plan for the unserved, who have never actually had an opportunity of having drinkable water. But let's celebrate the fact that over the past 20 years, more than 85% of South Africans have access to clean water.
And not only just access to clean water, I mean, we've traveled the globe and we've noticed that South African water is actually one of the highest quality waters that you can receive in your domestic house. It's really good quality water, and why would you use that to go to waste?
Correctly so. Part of why we would always tell people that it's cool to come to South Africa as a tourist is that you drink water from the tap.
Exactly.
But if you don't have capable men and women in the municipality to maintain your water treatment plant, you'll have the sewer spillages into our systems. Exactly. And that's why now, as the Department of Water and Sanitation are now looking at the quality and capacity of people in the local authorities that are supposed to deal with this issue, because when we do the annual assessments of what we call the blue drop for water quality and the green drop for an effective and an efficient sewer system. We are quite concerned about some of the municipalities that have actually dropped the ball.
Sure.
And that's why we now have taken more than 86 of our water treatment plants in the Vaal River system, which is one of our biggest systems in South Africa, to actually now come into our space so that we work with the local authorities to build their capacity, but protect the precious quality of water in South Africa now. But it starts with me and you. We must protect our rivers. As you go having fun in our dams, don't actually litter along the river banks. So behavioral change is also a reality. We're not just dealing with the drought. We're dealing with the realities of climate change. So it's a global phenomenon. So we need to also adapt on how we do things as a nation.
And Minister, we must ask, how is this whole process monitored? Because, I mean, some people at home might be thinking like, well, I do my part, I play my part, but there's so many million people in South Africa. How do we know that this is being monitored correctly, that we're all contributing to this great cause?
We do periodic assessments. Our water boards and our own regulatory unit in the department has got the capacity, including our municipalities, because our responsibility primarily is to build big infrastructure, your dams, your sewer pipes and the pipelines. But the water that must come into your house is dependent on the capacity of municipalities to reticulate. So we check the reservoirs, we check the dam levels weekly and annually. There's also an assessment in terms of water levels throughout the country. And hence, we can now tell you that we're not going to be out of the woods in the foreseeable future. We will only be in a comfortable situation as a country within a period of 3 years.
Sure.
Whilst we might be having good rains from March and the best around September next year. Remember, with this drought, you might now, with the good rains, have floods. So what must we do? All of us, we must put up systems to harvest water. In your yard, in the school, in a hospital, let's harvest the rainwater and utilize the rainwater and save surface water. The other thing that we are also doing is to build more catchment areas. There are many streams in South Africa that just flow back into the sea. So we definitely have to deal with that. But we must now come to live with the reality that South Africa, we've been spoiled over time irresponsibly, where everything was dependent on surface water, when you could use groundwater, when you could recycle your water, and when you could even use wastewater to distribute into industry and so forth. We're looking at various solutions. Desalination is one of the things that we are looking at.
Seawater, that's awesome.
Yes, cleaning seawater and redistributing. But it starts with me and you. Use a cup to brush your teeth.
One thing I have to ask you is the final sort of sentiment to this whole topic is that as the end user, we might feel like, oh, but that's a future problem. Only when there's real crisis will I want to start engaging with this. What can we expect if we don't act now? As you and I start acting right now, what can we expect in the future? What are some of those dire consequences? You
would have deprived generations to come a very important, precious resource, which is water. What we are going through, like I'm saying, will only be out of the woods in a period of 3 years. So if me and you don't change our behavior, it will not be something that will be good, not only for you, but for generations to come. The realities of climate change are upon us. Let us adapt in the way we do things. You must never fill a kettle to prepare a cup of tea. Save the other volume for your own grandchild.
Exactly.
Because remember, if it so happens that this is the last drop, South Africa naturally is a water-scarce country. We rely mostly on shared basins with many nations across that are within the region. The economic hub of South Africa, Gauteng, relies on water from Lesotho. We now have to deal with those realities, and therefore, every South African must begin to change. But our investment is on education. Because if we don't help those who are coming after us, we are not going to make sure, therefore, that there's inherent change that does not need anybody to give a warning. But it starts with me and you.
Exactly.
Think about tomorrow. It's not an entertainment center, that shower that you get into. Get in, don't sing, get out. Don't use a bath. Use a shower. Once a week, you may have a bath, but recycle your water. Remember, the people who live in the rural areas, who collect 25 liters of water from a river where they actually collect this water that is also being used by animals are the ones who are recycling.
Yeah.
And now with the drought, we now have to still look after me and you. And whilst they're patiently waiting, I think we must not stretch their patience.
Absolutely.
Let's stretch the availability of this drop to reach out to all South Africans. But we must thank South Africans who have been very patriotic.
Yeah.
We've seen the Proteas, we've seen hashtag Operation Hydrate, where South Africans have come out, all of them, to say, let's think about those who do not have. We've seen religious people praying. We've seen traditional leaders doing their own things. Anyone with any solution in this platform, let us all be ambassadors.
Find something that's unique to you that you can contribute to. So, Minister, I really, really appreciate this time. Thank you so much for joining us in the loft.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
For most of us, water is readily available, and we usually don't question where it comes from. As South Africans, we receive clean, safe water. In times like these, we need to be aware and proactive about the current situation. It can be as easy as getting that leaking tap fixed.
How you doing, YouTube fam? Thank you so much for watching, sharing and commenting. We love hearing from you, so be sure to keep up to date with all things Afternoon Express by clicking the subscribe button right here.